The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, REL-MAR McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
The beat goes on. Beat goes on. Drums keep pounding a rhythm to the brain. La-da-da-da-dee. La-da-da-da-da.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Don't forget X-Zone Nation on Wednesday, November the 27th. The November issue of the X Chronicles will be distributed worldwide. And then we're going to get ready for mid-December for our special Christmas edition, as well as at the end of December, we have our Psychic edition for predictions from psychics all over the world about what they see for the year 2013. And it's always amazing to see, come the end of the year, how many were right and how many were wrong. X-Zone Nation, my guest this hour is Dr. Kevin White. He was, he has both an MD and PhD in medical research and is considered a world expert in the treatment and study of chronic pain with over 60 published scientific papers, abstracts, and medical textbook chapters. He is also a former University Teacher of the Year, a best-selling multiple award-winning author of numerous books, fiction and nonfiction, and has written over 400 songs. His latest nonfiction book is Breaking Through the Fibro Fog, Scientific Proof Fibromyalgia is Real, which won a 2011 Reader's Favorite Book Award, and has ranked as high as number 3 on the bestseller list at Amazon.com. His website is www.thefibrofog.com. And Dr. Kevin White, welcome to the X-Zone, sir.
Thanks for having me.
I guess the number one question that I should ask you is what is fibromyalgia and how is fibromyalgia diagnosed?
Well, the easiest way to understand fibromyalgia or how people feel is to tell you what a patient told me.
Okay.
A patient described her fibromyalgia as like the worst flu she'd ever had. She ached all over. She was exhausted. She didn't matter how long she was in bed. She woke up, she felt weak. She had headaches. She had belly aches. She just felt sick. But the difference is that flu will go away in 2 to 3 weeks, whereas she felt sick and had been feeling like this every day for years. So that's really what fibromyalgia feels like. In addition to the widespread pain and the fatigue and everything else, they also are diffusely tender, and that's how it's diagnosed. Patients are examined by a doctor who identifies the symptoms of this chronic widespread pain and fatigue, and then does an examination specifically looking for this diffuse body tenderness that you really don't get with very many other things.
Why is it that so many doctors do not believe in it?
Well, the reason really comes down to the fact that the patients with fibromyalgia look normal. I mean, tenderness, you can't see tenderness. You push on their muscles and they hurt, but there's no big swollen joints anywhere. The other thing is that their laboratory results, the routine labs that you get, your blood counts and all those things, generally look normal. And if you get x-rays, you don't see it. So for years and years and years, many doctors just thought that these patients were just faking it, or alternatively were just depressed. The fact is that we now have the technology to see the fibromyalgia, but it isn't mainstream use yet.
Doctor, please stand by. You and I have to take our first commercial break. X-Zone Nation, our special guest this hour is Dr. Kevin White. He's the author of, got your pens and paper ready? Okay, Breaking Through the Fibro Fog, Scientific Proof Fibromyalgia is Real. His website is www.thefibrofog.com, and that's www.thefibrofog.com. And Dr. Kevin White and I will return on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break as we continue here in the X-Zone from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
The brain. La-da-da-da-dee. La-da-da-da-da. Charleston was once the rage, History has turned a page, The mini skirts, the current thing,
Have you exhausted all traditional means of healing without success? Are you experiencing communications through ghosts, angels, or even extraterrestrials and want to validate these experiences? Or would you simply like to speak with someone who can help you find your life's purpose? I'm Dr. Joseph Mara, and I'm offering my services to humanity at this time through consultations. These consultations include angel card readings, guided meditations, life coaching, and energy healing. If you desire clarity of what may appear to be unexplainable phenomenon, then contact me through my website at aguidinglight, spelled LITE.com, to schedule your consultation today. Until then, I offer you love, light, and laughter.
I'm William S. Peckham. If you enjoy a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love my novel, From Out of the Woodwork. It's the story of a young Toronto contractor, Sean Kennedy, who buys derelict homes, guts them, and turns them into multi-family dwellings. Slums just waiting to happen. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, the house fights back. Former owners unexpectedly come out of the woodwork as he starts the destruction. The apparitions come to him when he touches old books, reads hidden letters, rummages through old boxes, finds a locket, or reads a discovered manuscript of a murder mystery. From Out of the Woodwork will take you from 1899 to the horror of the World Trade Center, September 11, 2001. Check out From Out of the Woodwork on my website, www.williamspeckham.com.
And welcome back, everyone. Dr. Kevin White is our special guest this hour. He's the author of Breaking Through the Fibro Fog, Scientific Proof of Fibromyalgia is Real. His website is www.thefibrofog.com. Doctor, most people say fibromyalgia won't kill you, but you say that isn't true. How does it kill you?
Well, there was a study that was done actually in Denmark and was published just a couple of years ago that looked at, does fibromyalgia kill you? Mm-hmm. Because again, people's laboratories look normal and they don't have big swollen joints or anything like that. So anyway, these researchers looked at it and they found that there was a 10-fold increase in suicides. People with fibromyalgia were 10 times as likely to commit suicide. And last time I checked, that was a form of death. The other thing that was surprising was that there was a 2 to 3-fold increase in the risk of dying from heart disease and a 4-fold increased risk of dying from liver disease. So this research study did find that there were significant increases in mortality that doctors just are not aware about.
You also state in your book that, contrary to public wisdom, fibromyalgia is not just a muscle disease. You say it affects our brain, our immune system, our heart, and other systems. What do you mean by this?
Again, for years and years, it was thought just to be this muscle disease, and that's why it's called fibromyalgia. The word myo means muscle, and algia means pain. So fibromyalgia just means pain, muscles, and fibrous tissues. But the fact is that we now know that the central nervous system is involved. In fact, that's where a large part of the pathology is. We have scans now where you can actually see pain in the brain, if you were. You can actually see the part of the brain that is responsible for pain perception. It lights up in people with fibromyalgia with specialized scans. We also know that the central nervous system is involved in the spine because there are abnormalities that occur in the spine that can be detected chemically, and if you look under a microscope, and the peripheral nerves. So we know the nervous system is involved. There's been research that has looked at the immune system, and somewhat surprisingly, they found that the immune system of people with fibromyalgia does not function properly. If you look at the white blood cells that are the main cells in the immune system, under a microscope, they don't actually function properly. And in fact, there's an increased risk of a whole host of immune disorders like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis in people with fibromyalgia. And then I just mentioned the increased risk of death from heart and liver disease. So, there really are, this really is a multi-systemic disease. It's not just sore muscles. This is a real systemic disease.
Are there other diseases that could be misdiagnosed instead of being diagnosed as fibromyalgia?
Oh, yeah. Again, the big thing that many doctors say is that patients are just depressed. But there are a lot of things that, I tell people who have fibromyalgia that once you have fibromyalgia, the good news is you'll never die, because the sad fact is that once you have this label, many doctors stop looking for other things. And so many other things are missed, like multiple sclerosis.
Right.
It's not unusual for multiple sclerosis to be missed in people with fibromyalgia, because they have a lot of the nerve pain, this diffuse pain, and they may have fatigue, and they may have other symptoms that are not uncommonly seen in people with fibromyalgia. So MS is certainly one of them. People with lupus may have it missed for a long period of time because, again, once you have fibromyalgia, they stop looking for other explanations for your pain and fatigue. And, of course, there's a lot of overlap with chronic fatigue syndrome.
Is it possible that fibromyalgia may be diagnosed as multiple sclerosis, and that the actual cause isn't MS but fibromyalgia?
Well, that can happen. Multiple sclerosis, actually, if you go back in history long enough, the multiple sclerosis used to be called progressive psychogenic paralysis. Believe it or not, doctors, many of them, thought that people with who we now know to have MS, that they were faking it. But it wasn't. What happened was that the technology eventually caught up with this. Now we have these MRI scanners that can actually see the pathology. So in people with MS, you sometimes will see these abnormalities, or you should see these abnormalities on MRI in the brain and in the spinal cord that would distinguish it from fibromyalgia. Having said that, they can be somewhat subtle. And so there are people who, they're not sure, do they have MS or not, and it turns out ultimately that they don't. They may have fibromyalgia. Many doctors just don't think of one when they're faced with the other. That's a big problem.
In your book, I was amazed to see that fibromyalgia actually starts in childhood.
that is another thing that most doctors have absolutely no idea about. It's called an old woman's disease.
Yeah.
You know, and a housewife's disease. These are the common threads through a lot of discussions. But in fact, 10 to 20% of cases start in childhood. And there was a study that was actually done in Israel where they found fibromyalgia in 6 out of 100 children in grade 8. So 6% of children in grade 8 actually had fibromyalgia. And of course, it was missed. They just said that it was all growing pains. They said it was just, these kids were, not adapting well,
right.
or they were struggling. But in fact, it was fibromyalgia. The good news is that most children, like 70% of children, will outgrow it by the time they reach adulthood.
So has ADHD been misdiagnosed for fibromyalgia in kids?
I don't know if that's actually happened, but it's a very good thought.
Yeah.
I mean, there may be some people some kids who are diagnosed as having, attention deficit.
Yeah.
Maybe not the hyperactivity, but the attention deficits. And in fact, the deficits are because they're just so tired all the time. And the name fibro fog actually comes from the mental cloudiness that many people with fibromyalgia have. For many people, this can be very, very debilitating. They can't remember anything because they're so tired they can't concentrate. I've had patients say that they don't answer the phone anymore because at 10 seconds in, they can't remember who they're talking to.
My goodness. Is there any age group that seems to be affected more than others, doctor? And in your opinion, and in the research that you've done into fibro, is there anything that triggers it on later on in life?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Generally, fibromyalgia, if you look both at women and at men, you'll see less than 1% people will generally have it, by the time they're age 20. Well, 1 to 2% of women, less than 1% of men will have it by age 20. And then this rate increases to about 10%. One in 10 women will have fibromyalgia by the time they're 65. So there's a real upswing through the 30s, 40s, and 50s in the likelihood of having it. Triggers, there have been many different triggers that have been identified for people with fibromyalgia. Injuries, especially whiplash injuries. A lot of people after a car accident can develop fibromyalgia, and this is something that can really be a problem because the fibromyalgia may not come on right away. You have this injury, and it's you maybe have a bit of neck pain and it seems to be getting better, and then 6 months out, suddenly you start feeling really terrible. And we now even understand why that happens. But the fibromyalgia can come on after the fact, usually within the first year or two. But injuries, some people have it following a flu-like illness. Some people have it following something like surgery. So various traumatic events, and some people just have it start spontaneously.
So how is fibromyalgia treated, doctor?
Well, again, there are many, many different ways to treat fibromyalgia. The one thing that is important to understand is that it's not like diabetes where everyone gets insulin. There is no one patented treatment for fibromyalgia. Everybody's different. Having said that, most people can be helped, and I think any specialists who actually follow these patients, and we're a small number, but specialists who actually follow people with fibromyalgia do detect improvements. But the first thing that has to happen is that the patients themselves have to know what fibromyalgia is and isn't, what to expect and what not to expect, because it's very important for them. The doctors can't do it all.
Sure.
The patients have to make adjustments in the way they live, in what they do, everything from diet to exercise. These things need to change to some degree. How much some people have to change their work schedule. My sister actually has fibromyalgia, and she had to reduce her work hours dramatically and actually become self-employed because she could no longer march to the beat of a different drummer. She had to beat her own drum, actually. She had to start working for herself. So there are changes that they have to make, and then there are a host of things that doctors and others can do to help them. Everything from some medications can help, but also therapy, physiotherapy, pool therapy, massage, especially light massage, can be helpful. There's a whole host of things, and I mentioned actually a lot of these on my website.
It practically sounds like the same treatment for someone who doesn't have the full-blown MS that so many people think of MS and debilitated in a wheelchair, but there are people who are actually able to walk and get around, and to look at them, you wouldn't believe they've got MS. And it sounds like the same sort of treatment that one might get.
Well, and again, it's a very, very good point. I mean, there really are a lot of similarities between fibromyalgia and MS. And again, for years and years, MS wasn't believed either till the technology caught up, and then everyone said, okay, well, MS is real and fibromyalgia is not. Of course, now the technology is catching up with fibromyalgia. But one of the similarities, besides the fact that both conditions were thought to be faked at one point, another big similarity is that they both primarily involve the nervous system. And in fact, some of the changes that you can detect in fibromyalgia are not that unlike what you see in MS.
All right, doctor, stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Interesting conversation with a very interesting man. Dr. Kevin White is our special guest for this hour, X-Zone Nation. www.thefibrofog.com. His book is entitled Breaking Through the Fibro Fog, Scientific Proof Fibromyalgia is Real. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. We'll be back after the news. Don't go away.
Are you or is someone you know struggling with addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, grief, success, and prosperity? Do you know that your subconscious belief plays a big role in the outcome of your hard work? We can help you permanently change the beliefs that may be the reason for your struggles and failures. We care about getting you the return on your investment and the results you are looking for. We can help you be free of the limitations of your past and in realizing your highest potential. We work with people by phone and Skype. For more information, visit us at www.ritasoman.com. That's www.ritasoman.com. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, and Star Cable. Our toll-free telephone number worldwide is 1-800-610-7035. Our email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com.
until it's won. Soldier on. Only you can do.
And welcome back, everyone. Dr. Kevin White is my special guest to this hour. He's the author of Breaking Through the Fibro Fog, Scientific Proof Fibromyalgia is Real. His book is available at Amazon.com. His website is www.thefibrofog.com. I have to ask you, Doctor, what was your inspiration for writing this book?
Well, when I first started in medicine, I didn't believe in fibromyalgia either. That takes people by surprise.
Wow.
Now, I wasn't a zealot about it. I didn't run around, screaming at people. But I didn't know what to make of it because I didn't hear about fibromyalgia at all in medical school or in my internal medicine training. It wasn't until I was well into my training that I ever saw my first patient with fibromyalgia. And I didn't know what to make of this person because, again, labs, x-rays, everything was normal. But as I started to see more and more people with fibromyalgia, the one thing that I noticed was that there were so many similarities that they had. There were so many things they were reporting that were the same. It just didn't make sense to me that it was being faked, that these people were just depressed. There had to be something going on. It was either that or there was some little book out there that everybody was getting that the doctors couldn't find, but all the patients could. So that's what really got me thinking about that this was real, and that's when I started to do research into it. And I actually went on to do a PhD in medical research on fibromyalgia. And as I did this, the more and more I studied it, first of all, the more and more I believed in it, and secondly, the more and more I saw how damaging the disbelief of other people was to people with fibromyalgia. I mean, I saw people, patients who lost everything. They lost their jobs, they lost their insurance over this, they lost their their homes, their cars. Sometimes they lost their spouses, their kids, their friends. Some even lost their doctors. And it was they were being punished for being sick. And eventually I wrote a paper, actually. It was an editorial that I published in 2003 in a medical journal called Fibromyalgia, The Answer is Blowing in the Wind. I borrowed that's a couple of lines from Bob Dylan's famous song, and one of them was, how many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? And the other line I borrowed was, how many ears can one man have before he can hear people cry? And again, in this article, I was arguing that, we need to look at fibromyalgia without the zealous disbelief. Let's start looking at it more objectively and try and understand what is going on with these people. Well, that paper went viral. It was all over the internet, and some of the responses that I got to that were so dramatic. People, one called up crying because there was a doctor who finally believed in fibro. She'd seen my article. So ultimately, I decided that I was going to write a book, and I did. It took about 3 years to do all the research and then get the book from initial conception to printing. And I'm glad I did because I think it helps a lot of people. There was one woman who actually gave a copy to her former doctor. That she and the doctor had parted ways over fibromyalgia because this doctor didn't believe in it, and she got a copy and gave it to him. Just dropped it off his office. She wasn't even his patient anymore. And 1 week later, believe it or not, she got a letter of apology from that doctor, and in that letter, he asked her to come back and do his practice.
Is fibromyalgia a new disease, Doctor? How far back does it go?
It goes back a long, long ways. Again, a lot of critics say that it's just a new disease. It's a fad. It only exists because we have a rich, generous insurance society.
Oh, you've got to be kidding! There are people who are actually that narrow-minded.
Believe it or not, it's true. But I'll tell you, believe it or not, the countries where fibromyalgia is most common?
No, sir.
You'd think it would be Canada, the U.S., rich countries, right? In fact, it's the three countries where it's most common in the world are Poland, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. And Bangladesh, of course, is one of the poorest countries in the world.
Yeah.
So it is not compensation-driven, and it is also not new. In fact, Florence Nightingale, who I'm sure you know,
of course, yeah.
Florence Nightingale, the mother of modern nursing, besides all the writing she did that revolutionized nursing, she also kept a diary. And in that diary, over the last 40 years of her life, she documented her chronic, widespread pain. And this was back in the 1800s. So Florence Nightingale was educating us about fibromyalgia more than 100 years ago.
What type of research is going on into curing fibromyalgia?
Well, again, now that there's understanding that this is a neurological disease primarily, but also a multisystemic disease that involves other systems, there have been a variety of groups that are looking at treating it not as the muscle disease it was thought to be, but as a neurological disease. And in the last few years, there have been a whole host of new drugs that have been released specifically for what we call central pain, which is pain that exists, that starts within the nervous system itself, rather than in the peripheral tissues. Think about it this way. You know, if you have your hand in front of your face,
yeah.
In order to see your hand, you obviously need your eyes to function, but you need more than your eyes. You need your eyes as one thing, but you also need the nerve that goes from the eye to your brain to be there and functioning, and you need a part of your brain functioning that interprets the message. If any one of those three things is knocked out, you don't see, which is why, of course, there are people who are blind after, let's say, a stroke or something like that. Their eyes are fine. And there are other people who, let's say, have schizophrenia, and they're seeing things that aren't even there because their brain is misfiring. So all three things have to function. That part of the brain that interprets pain, vision is crucial. And the same thing is that we have a part of the brain that specifically interprets pain. It's like almost like a dial that, on stereos. I don't know if people even own stereos anymore, but used to. You dial it up, and of course it gets louder. The problem with fibromyalgia is that part of the brain is dialed up all the time, so that simple handshake or a hug from a 7-year-old kid that shouldn't hurt anybody, in people with fibromyalgia, it can be excruciating. And the other problem is that it doesn't shut off. It never shuts off, so that handshake that's too firm, that we might shake off in 30, in 3 or 4 seconds, they can have pain from it for weeks afterwards. So there's been a real focus on trying to treat that central pain, try and get to somehow turn that dial down, if you will. So that's been a big focus in research as well as coming up with tests, more objective tests that prove that it's fibromyalgia,
right,
that prove that these people are sick, so that they don't have to go around, being disbelieved all the time. It's very hard to be to get better if you have to prove to people you're sick. It really is, and so. There is research, and believe it or not, there are at least 3 different research groups around the world that are working on developing a blood test for pain.
A blood test for pain? Now, that's rather interesting.
Yeah, well, think about it. Whenever I mentioned that their immune system is altered, right?
Yes.
The fact is that pain actually influences your immune system. It does. It actually, your immune system responds to pain. That's one of the triggers for the immune system to become revved up is pain. And so what they're trying to do is find out what specific responses are there to pain that you don't see, let's say, if you've got, an infection or something like that. So they are developing tests to look at chemicals that the immune system releases, that these white blood cells release when there's pain, and there is some significant promise in this.
That's fascinating, Doctor. So if I went to, would a patient who believes they got fibromyalgia go to their family doctor and then get a referral to a neurologist, or is it the family doctor who who sends out for all the different blood work, the MRI, and then does the final analysis?
Well, generally patients are referred on. There are many family doctors. An increasing number of family doctors are becoming more sophisticated in terms of fibromyalgia, and are suspecting it correctly. However, most will refer them on to a specialist to have the diagnosis confirmed. Most don't go to neurologists. They will refer to rheumatologists or arthritis specialists, because for years it was the rheumatologists who were leading the research charge in fibromyalgia. Again, it used to be believed to be a muscle disease, which was very much what rheumatologists and arthritis specialists would treat. Now that it's better known to be a neurological disease, hopefully more neurologists will become involved in research and treating it, but so far we haven't seen a lot of that.
Why I asked you that, Doctor, was I know that when someone is suspected of having multiple sclerosis, the family doctor will refer them to a neurologist who does all the necessary tests. So would a neurologist who's looking for MS be able to diagnose or make a diagnosis between MS and fibromyalgia?
They should be able to, but many will not.
Really? Because they don't believe it's a real disease?
Well, some don't believe in it, but even those who don't, if you're not taught about it, if the only thing you ever heard about fibromyalgia was way back in your third year of medical school, you're not going to think about it, even though it's a very, very common problem.
Right.
It's not part of their practice. They deal with multiple sclerosis and Alzheimer's and things like that. But if it's not the things they're looking for, they just say, well, it's not MS, you're on your own. And that's unfortunate because, of course, it means that many patients get bounced from one doctor to the next, to the next, to the next. In fact, in research that I published way back when, we found out that the average person with fibromyalgia waited 8 years before they got a diagnosis.
My good God. That person has been going through a living hell because nobody believes them.
Many of them are not believed. Some of them are fortunate. They have supportive spouses and families and friends, but many were not. And it ruined many lives. Two of the people that Dr. Kevorkian assisted suicide had fibromyalgia.
My gosh.
That's how desperate people can get.
What needs to happen, in your opinion, sir, to put a fire under the powers to be to get more money put into the actual research of fibromyalgia?
Well, again, people have to recognize it as a legitimate physical disease, not a mental disease, not a personality defect. They aren't just lazy. They aren't just crazy. They're not. If they're depressed, it's because no one believes them. It isn't depression causing their pain. There's plenty of research that has shown this. So the first step is getting people to really believe in this. But that's going to take that'll take some doing because again, if you don't hear about it much in medical school, or the most you hear about is 20 minutes in a lecture in your second year, it's hard to really focus on this. And that, again, is one of the reasons that I wrote my book in the way I did. The book is written so that anybody can read it, and it's very easy to read. But there are 481 scientific references at the back, and also a glossary of terms and an index, so that it can be used by doctors, by lawyers, personal injury lawyers, by any professional who wants to learn about fibromyalgia themselves. I mean, if they don't believe me, they can go right to the source. They can go to the research papers themselves that I list and see that I'm telling it as it is.
I'm just wondering, Doctor, how many people are listening to us around the world this very minute who have had a light bulb go on over their head, or who are going to get a copy of your book to bring to their doctor to show that they're not crazy and that they're not a person who gets into psychosomatic diseases?
Yeah, well, I hope that my book can help people, whether they buy my book or borrow it or read it at the library or just come to my website. There's a lot of free information. That paper that I wrote fibromyalgia, the answer is blowing in the wind. It's on my website, and you can download that for free. You can download a whole host of other papers there for free. I've got videos. I've got lots of other stuff. So, many people with fibromyalgia are cash-strapped. And, it's hard for them to afford a book, but there's a lot of free information there as well.
Doctor, I hate to cut you short, but I've got to take another commercial break. When we come back, let's talk more about your website. Let's talk about your book, how people can get a copy of your book. And this has just been a great hour, Doctor. Please stand by. Exonation Dr. Kevin White is our special guest. www.thefibrofog.com. And the good doctor and I return. Don't go away.
Back in Victorian England, a famous theologian posed a perplexing riddle. Why are the two top personalities in the Bible tagged with the numbers 7 and 11? Academics agree the answer is found in the stunning discovery of a hitherto secret Bible structure explained in a new book called The Genesis Grid. The discovery is so simple that preschool children could illustrate it. Certain claims are hugely controversial and may offend some, but at the X Zone, we've studied this awesome new book and agree with one expert, and I quote, "These discoveries appear to be beyond coincidence." So who or what hid this wonderful pattern in the Bible, and what might they do next? Find out more, X Zone Nation, and read reviews on www.genesisgrid.co.uk. That's www.genesisgrid.co.uk.
Ring my friend, I said you called Dr. Robert. Day or night, he'll be there anytime at all. Dr. Robert, Dr. Robert, you're a new and better man.
Well, we don't have Dr. Roberts here with us as the Beatles are singing, but we do have Dr. Kevin White, who's been with us for this hour. It's been a fantastic hour, very interesting, very informative. Dr. White has a very informative website at www.thefibrofog.com. That's www.thefibrofog.com. And he is the author of Breaking Through the Fibro Fog, Scientific Proof Fibromyalgia is Real. And first of all, Doctor, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Congratulations on a great book. I believe that the masses have to know about this. But during the commercial break, you and I were talking about laughter, and I'd like to share that with our audience.
Well, the saying is laughter is the best medicine. And in fact, there's now research that shows that laughter, just maintaining a sense of humor, actually lowers your blood pressure, lowers your heart rate, increases your immune function, so improves your immune system. They can actually see this looking at white blood cells under a microscope. They actually function better, and increases your pain tolerance.
Wow.
So you have less pain. So laughter is actually a very potent medicine. And in my own experience, I found that the people with fibromyalgia who do best are those who've maintained a sense of humor.
So I guess we should all start our day watching the Comedy Channel instead of CNN.
That's right. Be sure to read your funnies.
You've got another website, Doctor, kevinwhitebooks.com. You've written a number of books. So what are your other books about? They're fiction, they're novels, but again, because I'm medically trained, they every book has a purpose of sort of educating people about various conditions. A book called Puck, in which there's an autistic boy who learns to play hockey. I have a book called Inside a Hollow Tree that's won an International Book Award. Wow.
That deals with the issue of bullying in schools. And a book called Black Spoons and Brimstone that was shortlisted for another award that deals with the issue of addiction. So, there are, I try to open minds and open hearts through my fiction and my nonfiction.
It sounds like, sir, you are a man on a mission.
I am, very much.
Let our listeners know how they can find out more about your book, where they can get your book, sir, and what they can find on your website.
Well, again, if you go to my website, www.thefibrofog.com, You can find my book there. The price has been slashed by more than 60%.
Wow.
Sort of pre-Christmas thing. The normal price is $32.95. You save $18 on it. It's only $14.95 right now. You can also, on my website, get lots of free papers, including that paper I mentioned before.
Yes.
That really started the revolution. It went viral, and it's the reason I wrote this book. Papers on fibromyalgia and disability, diagnosing fibromyalgia, a whole host of others. I have a very, very active blog page. I write several blogs, every month, anywhere from 4 to 8 blogs a month, a couple a week. I have videos there. I have other free information. There even is a monthly poll. You can go in and tell people what you think of various issues relating to fibromyalgia. So there's a lot of free information there.
Dr. White, I hate to cut you short, sir. We're just coming to the end of this hour. I want to thank you very much for joining us, sir. Congratulations on the great work that you're doing, and I hope that we have the pleasure of meeting you again here in the X Zone to further talk about fibromyalgia and making a positive difference in our world today.
Well, thank you very much for having me on.
My great pleasure, sir. X Zone Nation, Dr. Kevin White has been my guest. www.thefibrofog.com and kevinwhitebooks.com. We'll be back after the news at 6.5 minutes past the hour as we continue here in the X Zone from Hamilton, Ontario.